This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission, help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle. All right, metalheads, it's the Mental Mettle Podcast, and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening. I'm going to start with that. Thanks. The numbers on the podcast are growing. A lot more engagement on social media. I keep asking for it. Every time I do this, I jump in and I say, hey, you really help the show grow when you like, share, subscribe. You do all these things. You make comments on stuff. Every time you do that, it's starting to grow. And this is not a huge podcast. I'm no Joe Rogan or anything, but it's starting to grow a little bit. It's starting to reach more and more people in different circles, in different places. And I can see the numbers, and it's because you guys helping it. So thank you so much for doing that and just sharing it with educators, coaches, parents, and, I started this for coaches more than anything, but it just, the things I'm talking about, and it's mostly through athletics, but not 100%, but it's still so useful for everyone. I always talk about how I got into coaching and started learning about this positive psychology. And one of the first things they ask is, well, what's the clientele you want to work with? Because, it helps to be able to get to be a coach. And I knew almost immediately that I wanted to go back into the world of athletics. And I knew that I wanted to be able to do this in a way that helps athletes, coaches, and educators, because that was the world I came out of and wanted to go back to. And not everything I do is athletics based, but that's kind of like my niche. And today's guest is not as much athletic based as it is education based, but educate in the good old US of A. Education and youth athletics are just very much aligned for the good and the bad, very much aligned. So when I talk about going and talking athletics and talking about education, it's talking about schools and getting into places and do stuff. And that's where I do most of my work. And so today's guest is a great one for me to have on. It's Kyle Thompson. He's the Regional Office of Education Superintendent in Charleston, Illinois at the ROE 11. And you'll hear this. Kyle, saw a podcast of mine, got me into work with his team, speak to the regional superintendent or the superintendents in his region. And Kyle is you're going to just like the part of and that's part of the reason I got him on. The other one is because he goes and does these 100-milers, and he does a lot of running. So there's a connection between the athletics and his job and how he applies and forges his own mettle. So he's the exact kind of guy I want to talk to on this podcast. And there's what's really cool about Kyle is he is, and you're going to help me. I'm going to mention this in the podcast, but I want to break it down a little bit before we get into it so you understand it. Kyle, we mentioned briefly the Enneagrams, and if you haven't done your Enneagram and you don't know what your Enneagram is, I highly suggest it, because it helps you understand your values and what makes you tick, because it helps you move forward, but then also helps you talk about what are my negative tendencies as well. And Kyle talks about two that he has, and that's the type 8, which is the challenger, and the type of 3 is the achiever. And as you can imagine, a challenger and an achiever is somebody exactly the sort of person that you would expect to go be a young regional superintendent of schools and also decide to go run 100-milers. It's just exactly like when I just tell you those things about somebody, you would go, that's probably an 8 or a 3 or, one of those because it fits. It's somebody, that 8 is just that somebody, that strong, independent person that's in control of their life. And the achiever is somebody who likes to do things to get a medal, right? And to say, oh, I've done this, and to be admired for these things. Great characteristics, but they also have negative drawbacks, right? So that challenger is somebody who, when they like having that power and like and being in charge, they also are very worried about being vulnerable and being harmed and being and don't really like opening up like that. And then the achiever, obviously their negative is they have a lot of fear of failure. And a fear of being insignificant. And what I like about Kyle is that he shows those positive attributes of the 8 and 3, but then recognizes that those are the negatives, or the possible negatives that go with it. He works on them and he practices them. So the fact that he brought me in to work with his team in a way that he knew would cause him to be vulnerable tells me that he's fighting that, and he knows that is still important. So he counteracts that. And the fact that he does these races and he puts himself up for election and public elections, meaning that he knows failure is a possibility, but he faces that anyway. So I really enjoy, and that's why Kyle is successful in his job and his running and him running that office, is because he has these positive aspects of an 8 and a 3, and he really works on fighting the negative aspects. And that no matter what your Enneagram is, once you know those about you and how to counteract them and use it for good, and then also be cognizant of how it can cause you to slip, that's how you become successful. It's not like you have to be an 8 or a 3 to be successful, because there's all 6 people of success in all types of Enneagram types. But it's knowing that about yourself and what your tendencies are, good and bad, that is really important about that. And so you're going to see that in this. And that's what I enjoy about it, is because he is this challenger, achiever type boss that also brings somebody like me in to help everybody be their best and be vulnerable and challenge them. And that is it was a fantastic place to work at this regional office of 11 when I got to go in, and he's helped me get into a lot of other schools, and I sure appreciate that. We're going to talk some really cool stuff here. If you're listening, we're going to talk a little bit about running and how he does that to challenge himself and to forge his own mettle and practice that intentional adversity. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the work I did with his group and what I do with schools, because he's in a unique, powerful position to suggest some of that stuff, and why the sort of coaching that I do, the leadership coaching and some of the training that I do, is really good for offices, schools, and for all districts in all sorts of ways. So really good interview with Kyle. He's a smart guy, a challenging, a very accomplished guy. And so enjoy the interview here with Kyle Thompson of Regional Office 11. Welcome to Mental Mettle Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Toman. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your mettle. All right, welcome back. It's the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman, here with my guest today, Kyle Thompson. Kyle is the Regional Superintendent of Schools at Regional Office 11 down in Charleston, Illinois. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. So far, so good. Sun's shining, and it's going to be maybe hit 80. So I'll take it.
It is really, you're a warm weather guy?
I prefer, yeah. I'd rather run in 90 degrees than 30 degrees.
You and I are the exact opposite.
Yep.
Exact opposite. I preferred most when I was doing a lot of running. If I would rather run in 15 or 20 than 80.
Yeah. Well,
that's just me.
Yeah.
I'm fatter than you are, so I got a little bit more of that. Maybe that's what it is.
All right.
You got to have that. I've already got that winter coat on, so it's good.
Well.
My first thing I'm going to comment here is I think this might be the first time I've had an interview with somebody in which both sides of the interview we have a believe sign at our back, which is
you
can see mine right there.
Oh, yeah.
It's always mine's always there.
Yep. Same.
I mean,
Big Ted Lasso,
I don't know how
man. Big Ted.
I don't know how you can't.
Yep.
I don't know why you wouldn't want one.
Yep.
So yeah. So a little bit of connection here on how you met, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of something. And I think maybe I've told you this or not, but so you and I got connected because you watched one of my podcasts, which is with Rob Ullum, Going to the Well, which has been a while. And Rob, I guess you would call Rob, is Rob a bit of your like running mentor? Would that be fair?
1,000%. Running mentor and good friend. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you just through education you got, and Rob was a childhood friend of mine.
Yeah.
I played basketball with him all through. So, was it just through education you got to know Rob and that he ran?
Yep. He's a local principal here. Our paths cross often. And actually his building is right outside my back window here, about a mile. And I knew I was just starting to explore running, and I knew that he was already running, and I had heard what kind of running he was doing. And that was intriguing to me because, I'd done a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks with my kids over the years, and I didn't start running until after they were born. And those were fun. But as my kids were getting older and are getting older, they're starting to catch me in speed. And so I thought it's time to turn the tables a little bit and see if I can just run further than them and outlast. I reached out to Rob. I still remember it. I know he does too. Just shot him an email asking for some tips. This was several years ago now. And eventually we connected, started running together. Rob trains at a unique time. And so that time was available for me. So that's what
So you get up and go and train with him at 2 a.m.?
I did for a long time. I haven't for a while, but it's time to get back into that. I'm overcoming a little bit of an injury this past year, but for every so often, whenever yeah.
I mean, look, when you're trying to run for 100 miles, you have to carve some time. It can't be like, oh, I'll get a run in. It has to be an unbelievably intentional decision to get those kind of miles in.
Yeah. And, when you're training for 100, as he talked me into doing a 40 miler for my 40th birthday. And then after that, he said, what do you want to do next? And I said, I want to do 100. And he gave me a couple of options, and one of them was 100K. And I said, nah, I want to go. But you have to run long and several hours. And if you have a job and a family and kids and, it's very hard to carve that time in. And so you kind of have to do that when everybody else is asleep. And so, and that's kind of what we did. And eventually, he led me through my first 100 miler, followed him through 35 hours of rain. And I think he was on your podcast just before that, a couple of years back.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of fun running adventures ever since.
Well, when you talk about just going further, I love that idea about endurance. I don't know if you just saw that that 250-mile race.
Oh, yeah.
A woman actually won it. And so the distance is the great equalizer, because it's not a speed thing. And it's honestly, young people, when I say young, like 20-year-olds and stuff, struggle with the distance because you have to build it up.
Yeah.
And there's like, you can't fake it.
Right. You have to develop a base of just consistent time on feet. I always say time on feet and miles per week, not going, nothing to do with how fast you're going. Or a lot of times people say, well, how fast are you going? How many miles per hour are you getting in those? And I'm like, I don't even know. It just depends on the trail. Everywhere you go, you just slow and steady and just enduring. How much can you endure? How much can your body endure?
I think that's the fun part about trail running, is like, I did a lot of road running, and you're always concerned about your time, but you can't compare one trail run to the other, because conditions, like, I'm sure you've probably, I don't know if you've ever been in McNaughton in Pekin, like that trail.
No, I'm familiar with it, but I have not been on it.
It's just, I mean, you can't,
elevation,
it's constantly up and down.
Yep. Elevation, type of terrain, so many factors that make that miles per hour on a long run a variable. You always know what time you need to average to make the cutoffs, but you don't ultimately have to. You're not out there trying to get 8-minute miles, 7-minute miles, looking at your watch even every mile. You're just cruising and embracing for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, but the first time I went over to McNaughton, I'd not done a lot of trail running, and a buddy of mine said, we're going to go do their 10-miler.
Yeah.
And I told my wife we were going. She goes, well, how long you be? And I'm like, well, we got to, it's 15 minutes over there, and, it's a 10-mile loop. I don't know, I'd say an hour and 45, and then it's like 3 hours of and she's like, where are you? I'm like, we're still running. Like, it's just,
you came home a changed man.
Oh yeah. And just dirty, wet, with creek crossings. And it's like, okay, this is a different type of thing. And it's fun, but it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what's interesting is about that podcast. So a little bit about when I started this podcast, there's a couple reasons I do the podcast. It's, I don't make, quote unquote, make money on it. And it's not one of those kind of podcasts, because I like to just get it out there for the thing, but I also know that it increases my, my credibility and gets me out there a little bit, and that can lead to business. So that's great and all. And that what's through you watching that podcast with Rob has led to me to so much. It's easily my most lucrative podcast, just because the right person watched it in the right situation in the right time. And, I always find that really interesting, because the first thing you did when you saw it, you're like, hey, I want you to come in and speak to my ROE 11, which, it's
worked out.
Ended up being a great thing for me, because then the superintendents see it and they're like, oh, we want this guy to come work at our school and do that. And we'll get to that a little bit, but that's, I always find that really interesting. I never know. That speaks to connections and ripples and things like that you just never know.
You got it.
How things are going to go.
Right. Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's exactly how it went. Just, I stayed tuned in a little bit, and eventually the timing was right. And yeah, I made the reach out, and it worked perfectly for both of us.
It did. So I'm going to dive in a little bit more on the running here, because you mentioned you told me that at some point, and I don't know how old your kid was when they asked, they're like, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? And you didn't like the answer. So you started.
Yeah.
It's funny how little things, like, it's like your kid gave you a coaching question or like a therapist question.
Yeah.
And then you didn't like the answer, so you changed everything.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. Kids were little. I don't remember what age they were, what age I was, but I just remember they asked the question, and I had to rack my brain, and I wasn't satisfied with the answer. Of course, I'm questioning, well, physically or mentally, and so that changed everything. Kind of lit a fire into me. How do I want my kids to see me? Do I come home from work every day, sit on the couch for 6 hours, feet up, throwing back a cold? I mean, like, no, like that's not me. It's not my personality. And so it was just more like, all right, like, I want them to see me do some hard things. I want them to see me, push myself physically, mentally, and So yeah, I took up a lot of different challenges, in various forms, and really kind of life changing. You can argue. I know it sounds cliche, but I mean, obviously, it lit a fire that has helped me become who I am today and where I am today. So it worked out.
Well, well, I think that question might have like prompted things, but as you told me, you sometimes see yourself as an Enneagram 8 or 3. Either one of those, that sort of question, like you kind of have to have that sort of personality for that sort of question to latch hold and fire you.
Right. Yeah. And really stick with you that long.
Yeah.
I didn't want whatever it was running a 10K to be the hardest thing I've ever done. I was like,
Yeah.
man, millions of people run 10Ks. Like, I think I can do something harder, and,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, that is, like all or nothing type personality of, going to the extreme and that's where I am.
So you mentioned also, you use that phrase optional adversity, and I like to call it intentional adversity.
Yep.
Same idea.
Yep.
One of the things that I preach and I talk about, and you'll be able to speak to this, is that I believe that there's a couple types of adversity we face. There's intentional adversity,
Mm-hmm.
which we choose, which is things like, deciding to run for office,
Yep.
becoming a PhD, running 100 miles. And then there's mandatory adversity, and that is the unbelievably long list of uncontrollable things that life is going to throw at us that we have no control over.
Which
right?
is, you face that. And
which is, everybody faces that.
Right.
So that's the mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
But my contention is that if you aren't putting yourself through some sort of intentional adversity, you are not going to be as prepared for the mandatory adversity as you could be or should be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that you like speak to that, because that's it has to be part of the reason why you do it.
It is. It is. And really, since I've started doing not only the running, but going to school for 6 straight years to get a PhD at 35 or 6 years old, and running for office, running 100 miles, whatever it is, physical, mental, those are all options and choices I've made to help prepare me for when the real adversity comes. I know you've battled before, but for when you have to battle something, whether it's through me, myself, or through family, whether it's becomes aging parents someday, or whether it becomes anything, a kid, a child, anything like that. And I think that no doubt it's changed who I am and how I handle things, personally and professionally, with regard to just having a little bit more of resilience and a mindset that I'm prepared to handle anything that comes my way. And so when it happens, you think like, oh, I'm already able to handle this. And it's kind of nice knowing, like, you know what, remember that one time where it was like you were 100 miles from anywhere in the mountains, and you were, in water, and it was you're thinking like, I put myself through that. I think I can get through this. And so, and like I said, just whether it's the education or the physical or the mental battle, both, anything will help. So yeah, when I talk about intentional adversity, I'm talking about when people put themselves in positions that make them uncomfortable and that they have to overcome. And I encourage people to do that as often as possible.
Yeah. And it helps you face some of the big stuff when they show up in life, but it helps change your mindset around even the little stuff, which as a parent, mm-hmm. or little things in the office that other people might be let's use the word overreacting towards.
Sure.
It makes you go,
which I've had a tendency to do historically, but,
that's what I'm saying. It changes your mindset towards that.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're just like, it's not that big a deal.
Right. And a lot of it, like I said, I mean, I'm a fiery, passionate person. And so, but just having a calmness of like, okay, what now? Like, let's solve the problem, see problem, solve problem, and look for solutions. And, I've become more level as a result of the things I've done to this day, and it doesn't have to be running 100 miles. It can be anything that people can do to get out of a comfort zone,
right.
Find a hobby and try to be be great at it or find joy in it or commit to it, anything like that.
I think so. Well, so that's the trick, right? So what you just said right there, if somebody's just listening to this and says, I'm never going to find joy in trying to run 100 miles. And that is probably fair for most people.
Almost everyone.
But I do think that's the crazy part, is because you can start to put yourself through this adversity that you have some interest in, and then something that somebody else thinks is the worst thing ever, you actually find joy and you actually enjoy the adversity.
Yes. I think the appeal of, obviously going back to the beginning, but just that so few people choose to do it. I don't want to say so few people can do it, because, I believe, I don't want to say anyone can do it, but like, I believe if you commit, like, the cliche, oh, you can do anything you put your mind to. Well, yeah, sure. Like, I tend to believe you almost can. And that's kind of what this was. I mean, I remember the first time I ever ran 20 miles, and 2 months later I ran 40. It was just like, it was leading up to my first marathon. I did my first marathon, and then, you keep preparing yourself for it. And a lot of it's up top. And so, yeah, I mean, I know most people wouldn't find joy in doing this or putting themselves in those positions, but when it starts to rain, my first thought is, when can I get a run in this rain? Or just like running around Lake Charleston and intentionally with my friends running into the lake and back out to do another lap, soaking wet with our, just feet wet, just to practice what it's like to have your feet damaged when you're running on the trails. So when you do that, you're ready for it. But like I said, it doesn't even have to be running. It can be anything. There's so many great bikers in my region, and people who do the bike, and pickleball, just whatever any hobby, sourdough bread. Just figure out a way to practice and get it down. So yeah.
I agree. When I started having a few issues with my hip, and running was really hard for me, and so I kind of hung it up and switched over to jiu-jitsu for the same exact reason.
Yeah.
Because that was my mindset, was like, I'm not doing any really hard adversity, and I need to find some.
Yeah.
And because I believe in that so much that I had to find something.
Yeah. And what you found is also very unique. There's not a lot of people doing that. But it's something that you enjoy, and that you're practicing and training, and it's hard, and it challenges you, and it pushes you. And that's the thing. Like, at some point I won't be able to run anymore. Like, I know that's going to happen. It happens for everyone. It could happen at 43. It could happen at 53, or who knows? But when it does, I'll just move on to the next thing, just like you've done. Like, there'll be some other way for me to keep going. Like, life won't end. But do I want to keep doing this as long as possible? Sure. But, I'm overcoming the first surgery I've ever had, and couldn't walk for a month. And so, like, the thought, very briefly was, will I ever be able to do this again? And that was the first question I had for the foot doctor. And he said, absolutely. And I said, perfect. That's all I need to know. Yeah. So, and I'm back.
Yeah. So where's the, where are you at in the rehab? Like, are you trying? Cause one of the problems is to have a number 3 like you to try to do this, is like, coming back from an injury. It's really hard to say slow and steady is the way to do it.
And I set the date, you saw me on the scooter. Mm-hmm. And then you saw me a week or two later, not on the scooter. And it's just, it's, I went through PT. Now I'm done with PT. I originally said my goal was to run June 1st. Well, I hiked Camelback Mountain on a month after the surgery. 1 month. It was 3 days after I started walking. I hiked the mountain with my daughter out there on spring break. And then a month later in April, and the doctor said, if you feel like, he said, you can't make this injury any worse. It's just about how much pain you can tolerate, which obviously it went, challenge accepted. So,
oh my gosh. Well, what did you just like? That's
music to my ears. And so, and it did, it hurt. But a month later, like, I found myself, okay, like, I was waiting for my daughter at dance practice. I was like, I think I'm going to go see if I can jog a lap around this mall. And sure enough, it was 0.8 of a mile. And I was like, no pain. So the next day I did a mile and a half. And then, and now I'm back to doing 4+ miles daily. And, Saturday night I ran 8.5. And so just progressively getting it back to where, but I don't feel like I've rushed it. I think most people that know me will be like, oh, he's going to rush it. He's going to try to push it. I felt like I let it come to me. I focused a lot. I've got a gym membership now for about the first time in my life where I'm taking it serious and trying to just regain some of that leg strength. But, aside from being able to run, I have to start all over with just getting back in shape with like cardio and just being able to catch my breath and keep my heart rate where I want it to be, things like that to get back to full strength. So by no means am I at that yet, but I'm confident I will be in time. It's just like,
well, it becomes, and not with injuries and with age, everything has to become more intentional on when you do stuff. Not I'm not saying you're getting old, but you know what I mean? Like every year we get older and you just have to be a little bit more intentional about that.
Yeah. And when people say, wow, you're getting older, like I cringe because I'm like, no, not me. I'm not getting older, but I know I am. And just, we all are. And you have to make the changes and adjustments that you need to make to be able to do what you want to do. And that's for anyone.
So let's do this. Now, if I ask that question, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? What's your answer now?
Run 100 miles. Yeah.
Which have you done it? Have you done more than 100 miler?
4. Yeah.
You've done 4. So let's be specific.
Yeah.
Because
the hardest was
not all races are the same.
You got it. So the hardest was the first one. I ran it with Rob back in September of 23, and it was Grindstone out in Virginia, out in the George Washington forest, out in just out east, and it had a 36-hour time limit, and most 100-milers have a 30-hour time limit. You get some that have 32 or 34. This had a 36-hour time limit. Very mountainous terrain, a lot of elevation. I think it was 33,000 feet of elevation, and it was unique because it started at 6:00 in the evening, and so right off the bat, you had to run an overnight. Mm-hmm. And then if you weren't a speed demon, you had to run a second overnight. And that was the category I was in. Thankfully, I was running it with Rob, the whole time. But yeah, so 2 overnights, and about 4 or 5 hours in, right around midnight, it started raining, and it rained throughout the entirety. And so the sun never really came up the next day. It was just dark, gray, overcast. And so you just picture, we finished in 35 hours and 15 minutes on a 36-hour time limit. And could Rob have finished faster without me? Absolutely. And he there were a few times where he made me chase him a little bit. It was good, but but that's by far the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the hardest thing I probably ever will do, unless I happen to get into Western states, which is one of my goals through a lottery. But yeah, just incredible. And I'm glad it was first, but and I've run 3 since then that have all been very hard. But that run, Grindstone, it ended up being 106 miles. So there were bonus miles. When your watch buzzes at 100, you think, oh my gosh, how far away am I from the finish? And you don't really know. But you're running for 3 more hours after you've hit 100. And so, so yeah, that's the answer now. And I'm satisfied that that's a very, very hard thing. That's something I can hang my hat on with the kids. So, yeah.
Well, let's go back for a minute. But anybody, I'm aware of the world. I understand it.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is you have to win a lottery to get into some of these races. It's not just like you can't just say, I want to go do the Western States. Is it 200? The Western or how far
100.
Is it?
Yep.
It's just 100.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So just 100.
Well,
I say
yeah,
that.
But it's like the Super Bowl of ultra running.
It's like the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. And you have to run a qualifier the year before. Yep. So you have to run 100 to even enter the lottery the year before. And then you register, and then they draw every year. It's first Saturday, December. And the run is the following June. So you definitely know six months or so in advance that it's coming. And, historically, every year, 10,000 people enter that lottery. And I think they draw 370 people So it's very, very slim. But each year you do it, your ticket amount doubles. And so the idea of getting a qualifier, if you do it 1 year, you get 1 ticket, 2 years, 2, then it goes to 4, 8, 16. So, the people who, there's a handful of people every year that have 10 years of qualifying and they haven't got in yet. And everybody's kind of pulling for them because they have 516 tickets and the chances are high they'll get in. But, and so I'd like to get to that point someday where I can build those up and maybe get
which means you got to stay in shape and keep qualifying every year to
keep going if you want to have a chance.
It's just crazy.
You got it.
What about now? I think I saw that you said, you've tried a 200 miler. Is that correct or not?
I did. Well, I did. Yep. I was, it was a year ago, March. So it was March of 25. And I had signed up for it pre-injury. And then I had, I felt okay. I didn't feel injured, but I knew I was still battling my a bad heel whenever I ran. And I went down there and tapped out at 40 miles. That was a DNF. And I have a handful of those.
That's going to be my next question.
I went down with Rob, who finished.
Yeah.
And I found myself, staying at a hotel, going to Texas Roadhouse by myself and watching March Madness for 3 full days while he ran. And I tried to crew a little bit. I took him a pizza, but he completed it. That was his first 200 miler, and I couldn't have been happier. I was just kind of bummed that, because it's an investment to do it, a financial investment, a time investment. I just wished I could have been a little healthier, but I knew I wasn't about 40 miles in. And whenever you DNF, you were going to talk about it, but
go
ahead.
I think that's when we talk about facing adversity and doing intentional adversity and like that, we always talk about what we accomplish and how, but inherently there is failure because if you're not really putting yourself through adversity and challenges, if there's not failure, so that how to deal with that failure is also a big part of it.
Yeah, huge part. And it sounds, it sounds boastful, but like I'd not failed that much in my life. I
get you.
Very fortunate and blessed and successful. Like there hasn't been a whole lot of failures where I can be like, oh yeah, I failed at that one time. But like, it's cut and dry. You either finish or you fail. Like that's it. And my personality, and I think with most runners, when you finish and you tap out at 62 out of 100 miles and you're just like, oh, I failed, a DNF. And people are like, oh my gosh, don't be so hard on yourself. You ran 62 miles. And I'm just like, that hurts. It's just like, you don't.
That wasn't the goal.
You don't understand. Yeah.
That wasn't the goal, right?
Not the goal. Yeah. Like, I'm not proud of that at all. Like it's, so yeah, I failed the first time. I like to talk my failure resume from time to time because those are the only ones my kids like to talk about, oddly enough.
Sure.
Are the failures every morning. They like to remind me of something like that. But, Rob and I got into Leadville through a lottery and went out west. Leadville's one of the premier ones in the country. It starts at 10,000 feet of elevation, high in the Rockies. And it's an out and back. And so you're 50 miles out, 50 miles back. And I timed out at the 50-mile checkpoint. And so that was humbling. I'd had a couple hundreds by then under my belt, and I failed. And I went out there fully thinking I was going to finish. You're not entering one of those thinking you're not going to, right? So, but we flew out, and sure enough, at 50 miles, I had timed out, and I felt healthy. I didn't feel injured. I couldn't run any faster up the mountains, and I couldn't make the checkpoints in time. And that the year I ran it, the guy broke the record for the course. He finished the 100 in 15, 16 hours or something like that. And I timed out at 13 hours at 50 miles. So
it's humbling.
It's super humbling. And you think you train well by running up and down the hills and doing hill repeats here. And then you get out there and you're really humbled. But and then after that, I failed the 200, and then I failed at Tunnel Hill down in Southern Illinois. And those were both injury related. That was when the heel was bad. And like I said, I've had some surgeries to repair that and better now, but I still have some unfinished business at Tunnel Hill, and I'm going to get to that someday because, my family was down there. It was raining. They were crewing me all day, and a lot of friends, local friends went. Some people knocked out their first 100 miler there. And some people got sub 24, and here I am, the guy who failed. You know, and so that was humbling, but it was also, you know, I remember my daughter was furious when I was like, I'm done. I mean, she wanted to stay, she wanted to cruise, she didn't want to miss the other runners and our friends, and I said, I'm done. We're going home. Let's go. And my son was sleeping in the car already. He didn't care. And my wife, she drove us home, and I wanted to get home. I was mad at myself, but it wasn't the goal. So all the people that put the good jobs, well, you did so well, you ran 62. Like, no, that was frustrating.
It is.
Yep.
So let's check out this transition. Here we go. So when we're talking about enjoying the adversity, to me, that is the word mettle because mettle is a person's ability to face adversity in a spirited and resilient way. So it's the word spirited means I'm actually enjoying it. In order to do that, I don't think you can just throw yourself in the adversity. Well, you can, but a proper mindset has a lot to do with it, right? From the get-go, you have to have a very positive mindset on what you're going to do, how you take care of yourself, and how much you enjoy it. And that becomes, again, that's the name of my business. That became the name of the program that I do with people on 100% Mettle.
Right.
And that's what I came down and did with your group. And now it's interesting because when I talk to your staff and we did the coaching sessions, the group coaching sessions, it's not me getting up there and going David Goggins on everybody and saying, you need to be doing this and who's going to carry the boats and yelling all that.
Right.
But it's developing some recognition about some of your thought patterns that get in your way. And how do we do that? Mm-hmm. Again, if you want to take that and apply to sourdough bread making, you can do it.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you want to be able to, you know, develop a mindset that helps you be positive and successful in a very healthy way.
Right.
So that's going to be my question is what did you expect when I was coming in? And then what did you get out of it? Like, I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah. What did I expect? What did I get? I think it's really important to invest in your people. And in my office, we've done over the years, every couple of years, we'll do the Clifton Strengths Finder or the Enneagram, or where we get to know each other through our honest answers, and we also get to know ourselves a little better. And so I think I've been really big on emotional intelligence lately, and so I think developing, just enhancing your self-awareness, your social awareness, self-management, relationship management is all very important in the line of work that we do here. And I think that it was, I didn't expect you to go Goggins. I knew, but I expected that we were going to have to open up a little and be vulnerable in front of each other that we wouldn't normally do in a typical staff meeting, No. Because it wasn't me leading it saying, hey, be vulnerable, open up. It was an activity of where we all had to be, including me. And it didn't all have to be about, they're great, but they get to hear me talk about running all the time. And I love them because they're interested, but I also they're probably tired of it at times. And I get the eye rolls. I'm like, oh yeah, they don't care about this. So, but this wasn't just about me, and it wasn't just about running. It was about, all right, how do we be the best versions of ourselves? How do we grow? It's important to invest in people, help them grow, make them comfortably uncomfortable, to push them to be better, not better out here, but better wives, better mothers, better husbands, better brothers, better, to be better in their outside life. And then they'll be better here just naturally, because they'll be more comfortable and confident and content, and they'll know more about, they'll find their strengths and their weaknesses. And so, it's important to know who you're working with, I think, on more than a baseline level. And that's what your training allowed us to do and to learn. And we had some newer staff but I mean, you would think, I don't know, I would ask you, I mean, I think somebody coming in here would think we've worked together for decades in here because of how well we know each other and how comfortable we are, and how we're moving forward as an organization here in the office. And so I think, so yeah, as far as your questions, what did I expect? I mean, I expected my team to be led by someone other than me, somebody coming in that knows a lot about leading these types of things, and you certainly delivered, and that's why it's very easy for me to recommend what you do to my superintendents, who you also spoke with
Right.
back in October. You addressed a group of 25 superintendents, and I would recommend any leadership teams, central office teams. It doesn't even have to be school related. Any organization to bring you in to work with a core group of people, like it's benefited us. My staff still talks about it. They enjoyed it. They want more. We talked about what we'd like to do, and they would like to do something else like that again someday soon. And so it's just really left us with a good feeling now, but also a direction to go in the future.
Well, I think that to kind of answer your question that wasn't a question, it's absolutely your office is there's a very good feeling about it when you go in, and that's it's weird when you talk about places like offices, schools, because I go to a lot of different schools now in different places, and it's amazing to me because you get, especially when you work, I worked at one school for 10, 11 years, and you understand a vibe at a place. And then it's, as I go to different schools now, I walk in and I do things and I go, oh, it's different here.
Yeah.
And it's not always good different.
Right.
And you start to pick up on stuff and you're like, ooh, this place is like, feels very controlled, or they're not connected.
Tense,
or,
you can.
Yeah. And there's I think that one of the things when the group coaching that I do, and there's all sorts of different topics, and I talk about this on this show all the time and we show up and we have a topic, pick your poison, whatever topic you want to do. But the overall goal for the group coaching that I'm doing is to reveal the system unto itself. And that's what you kind of described, is like, yeah, we're going to talk about my inner voice today and how that affects me and do this. But as in this, when we have this conversation and you have two coworkers and one of them's talking and the other one's going, oh, I didn't know they felt that way. I feel that way. We're kind of like, we're both handling or not handling situations in the same way. And that starts to develop a connection between those people in a way that you wouldn't have if you didn't intentionally create a system to allow that to happen.
Right. Yeah. And
yeah.
And going back into, when you walk into a place, you can feel, oh, this feels different. Like it can be good or bad, like you said. And that's the culture of the place. You can feel that after being there for a short time. And we've tried really hard here over the years to just have a really positive culture. And we hear that people walk in, they're like, this place is all right. And I'm like, hey, none of us dread coming to work. Like, I mean, we love it here. And I think I speak for my entire team, we're we'd rather be here because everybody here could be elsewhere. I know that, like, that's not lost on me. And so yeah, it's important that I try to create an environment where people don't want to leave. And they want to be here. And am I always successful? No, that's almost impossible to be. But do I learn every time? Sure. I learn, I grow. Right now I've got a great team out here, and I hope they all stay the rest of their careers with me, and we live happily ever after. And it's my job to make that happen, to make people to where people don't want to leave. We've got a good team and a good organization here. And it's been great. Even with my alternative schools, we've got a lot of people here who've been here a long time that could go anywhere else. They could probably go anywhere else and make more money sometimes in some places. And if I can create the atmosphere, the environment, the culture to where they don't want to, like, that's the goal. And, you working with my team, you've like I said, you helped us learn more about each other. And my team knows that, my team knows I love them. They know that. They knew that before you came. They know that after. But now they know that I'm willing to, invest in them and their growth. And that's, I think that's really important.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was great working with you guys. And that's, again, I love going in and doing that because it goes well.
Yeah.
People enjoy it. People like it when they get invested in them. And that's, so and that's kind of what I want to bring up next in districts investing in, and you and I we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I mentioned the word SEL training, like social emotional learning, because sometimes I market my thing as that because I know that some schools have funds for that, or the people are looking for that.
Yeah.
And earlier on, I heard you say something about emotional intelligence, and that's not completely unrelated from social emotional learning. But for some reason, when I use the word SEL, it was almost like a little bit of a trigger word for you. And I'm trying to figure out, because I'm trying to figure out, you're the regional superintendent.
Uh-huh.
You tell me what my training is and how I should market it, because that's what I'd like to get from you. If it's not SEL, then what is it? And what, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think coaching, the SEL term is just a buzzword in education that has just been so overused.
Agreed.
And now you just have people saying it all the time, and they may not even have a clear definition of it,
or even know what the letters stand for.
Correct. Yeah, and
yeah.
I'm over it. I'm over the investment. And it's not that I don't like me saying I'm over it doesn't mean I don't want people to be well mentally,
right?
Right. But I just, again, the money being available for that only, I'd love to have that money available for literacy, can we focus on reading, which is kind of what school, I keep saying, let's like reading, writing, math, that's what I want to put our resources into, but the whole SEL thing, I didn't once think your work had anything to do with SEL for us. And you might think, oh yeah, it definitely did. Yeah, I did. I talked about emotional intelligence, but I think, I never attributed it to that. And so what do I have the answer? What should it be marketed as? I don't, but just coaching, team coaching, group coaching, leadership training, leadership coaching. Right. We're all better human beings outside of the office just as much as we are better inside the office because of your training. And so it applied to our lives, our personal lives. We were vulnerable with you about, our personal lives and with each other. And sometimes we were saying things that was the first time anybody's ever heard. And we're like, wow, I had no idea you were going through that. But it didn't feel like therapy. It didn't feel like we were talking to a counselor. A lot of the time we were talking to each other. It felt, it just felt like a little bit more than what the traditional, when you hear SEL in schools anymore, again, most people know I'm kind of past that at this point. But and again, I always say, it's not that I don't want people to be well, but I'm tired of it just being constant. And that's all we think about, hear about, do and so, but yeah, I still think it's important to invest in yourselves and invest in your well-being with your team and getting to know each other better. And again, if you're better on the outside of work, you'll be better. We spend a third of our lives at work, and that's a lot of time with the people in this office and in my organization. And I like the time I get to spend with them, and I want everybody to be at their best, and I want to be at my best for them. That makes sense.
Well, as you kind of say that, it kind of speaks to one of my ideas that a district will contact me to come in and work with their staff, and that could be the educational staff or the coaching staff, with the idea of, well, how do we reach kids better? How do we do this better? How do we work with today's student, today's athlete from emotion, because they're emotionally struggling and and all that. And I get that. And I always tell them the answer, but then I kind of get in there and I'm like, look, one of the best things that we can do is make sure that you yourself are emotionally and mentally stable, because a lot of coaches and teachers aren't as well as they should be. Let's be completely honest. So that becomes probably my main focus is let's worry about you. And my analogy there is always like what they tell you that the stewardess tells you or the flight attendant is like, when those oxygen masks drop, you better put yours on first. And we don't, in education, they don't do that, and they should.
Yeah. I mean, in order to take care of others and lead others and guide others, you have to be at your best. And in my position, like I have to be at my best every day. And that's why I tell myself, I don't ever want to have an off day. Like I want to be on all the time. I feel like I need to be, I want to be, so yeah, for anyone, a teacher, an elementary teacher or high school teacher, it doesn't matter. Coach, any position, administrators, adults working with students, they have to be at their best when they're with those kids. And so, I think, what you did for us helped us be at our best, or get to work towards our best. And that's the thing. I think people need to be working towards, I always say excellence is the standards. You have to at least want to be great at your craft and your profession, and working towards that. If you're coming to work saying, I don't need to be great, I'm going to be an average, like, might not be the line of work. It's much better if you're trying to be the best at what you're doing. So,
well, when we think about education, one of my problems with education is that they start from year one crafting that idea in a teacher's mind that this is really hard. And what do they tell it? They tell a first year teacher, the first year, you just need to survive.
This is the hardest year of your career. Yep.
Oh, it's so hard. You're going to have to just survive. Yeah. Well, we're starting the entire career with such a low bar, and an idea of, oh, well, that means that a lot of people don't survive, and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, why are we starting with such a low bar and such negativity that, well, how do you, of course it's so hard to get out of that. And I really don't like that, because we end up teachers their entire career, and coaches too, that spend all their time thriving or surviving instead of worrying about thriving. And that's what we want. It's such a, it gets me going, because that's not what we want.
No, and you're spot on. Like I've never, I don't want anybody that works with me to feel like they're barely surviving. Yeah. If they are, I just need to know. Like I will do anything to help somebody get out of that survival mode, even if it means not being here. Like if it feels like, and like, I always say, like, if you're thinking this may not be for you, just come talk to me, and like, let me help you find out where you want to be. And I will help you get there. If you're straight with me, I'll be straight with you. You don't ever want to feel like all you are doing is surviving, because that can lead to that's not being well. Yeah, but,
but you got to be careful about saying, oh, I just need to leave the situation, because it's funny how often people are they're their own common denominator in the problem. Right. You have to find a way to change your own mindset around something.
Right. Yeah. Third job in 3 years and 3 buildings. Like it's like, oh wait, let's step back here real quick.
My boss is always a jerk. I'm like, oh, well,
let's survey the land here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that has to do with that self-awareness piece, like,
absolutely.
And developing that and acknowledging, like, okay, like here's what I'm really good at. Here's my strengths, but also here's how I rub people the wrong way sometimes, And I like to think I'm good at that, but hopefully, I think everybody needs to be. Yeah.
All right. Well, Kyle, you've probably checked in the podcast enough to know the last question I'm coming at you with is what's the question I didn't ask you that I should have? Like, what did we not talk about that we should have?
We got running. We got some leadership here in the office. Those are the 2 boxes I had. I wish you had asked me the last thing I've read.
I would love it, because I would love to hear.
Yeah. So I'm going to name 2 books, and I'm not a novel guy usually. But I've read 2 novels in the last couple of weeks that I've been unable to stop reading. The first one was Theo of Golden. If you haven't read Theo of Golden, that's probably the best book I've read in the last 10 years. Theo of Golden. And then I just finished this morning The Correspondent, which was pretty good. It was just a book full of letters that a lady is writing. And again, that's not usually the genre I go with. I've got plenty of ultra running books, and they're on my desk, and I read those a little bit every day. But But I've taken up listening to books in my car over the last year or so, and I am listening to them nonstop, and I love them. So,
That's
but I bought a copy of Theo of Golden, and I've been passing that around for a couple of weeks now.
I'll check it
It's
out.
as good as it
I'll
gets.
check it out. I'm an audio book guy. That's my escape a little bit. I do a lot of driving, and that's
Same.
It's a shutdown. It's a shutdown for me. So
It's been a game changer for me for the last year. And it's one of those things.
Now, do you do it when you run? When you run, do you? That's a great question.
Running. That's that's the last question. Usually I'm music. I've tried podcast. I've tried books. I'm usually music, especially if I'm running with a group of friends, there's nothing, but usually I'm music, 9 times out of 10. If I went on a 4-mile run this morning just to finish the book. So I did.
See, okay. See, that's the thing. I used to I tell my wife that when I was running a lot, I said, I like to have a really good book going because that will actually get me going to get out the door to run. She's like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, really.
Hey,
I'm like,
today's the first. I'm like, hey, today is a rare time, but I knew I had a short time left, less than 30 minutes, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go. It was just a slow, mindless run. I wasn't trying to do anything special. Same route I always run, and so I was going slow, and it would allow me to finish that book and get out and do it today. So but generally 9 times out of 10 I'm music, and I've got a couple different playlists, classic rock, Jesus music, you name it. So that I just pick whatever I'm feeling and go from there.
Just go.
Yep.
Oh, Kyle, it's been a great conversation. I can't thank you enough for so many things, Kyle. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give you thanks for coming on the show, but thanks for supporting me, sharing my stuff. And I know that you'll continue to do it. So it's just been a big vote of confidence that somebody in your position at the ROE level is sharing my stuff, promoting my stuff, and helping my business grow. And I genuine thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet. Glad to do it. And thank you for all you did for my team. They loved the mornings you were going to come. Like, Matt's coming. Like they were pumped. Those 8 sessions were game changers for us here in the office. And I can't encourage it strongly enough. I hope others will continue to give you a shot. I know they will bring you in to work with their teams. And if there's anything I can do to help facilitate that, I'm going to, because it's been so good for my team. And I want to see other people have that as well. So we'll keep it going.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome, Kyle. Sure. I thank you much. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Toman, at Mental Mettle Coaching.
So Kyle did a much better job of promoting some of my stuff than even I can, but just some of the things that we talked about. So I did what I would call my 100% Mettle group coaching program with his entire office, several people in there, people that they work together every day. And we went in with my 8 sessions that I do, and we spaced that out, and it just went so well. He's helped me get into a lot of schools where I do my 100% Mettle, where I do it to the entire staff, which is a great, again, whether you want to call it SEL or call it whatever you want to call it, it is a really good leadership training. And again, whatever you want to call it, the whole point is I believe in that teachers are in a tough position in one of the most influential professions we have in our society that is also one of the hardest and most, it's underfunded. It's, it's a tough place, but it doesn't have to be. There can be so much joy in teaching and coaching. And my goal is to help teachers learn that and lean into that and shift their mindset to know that it can be a very positive profession. But you have to work on it. You have to intentionally work on that. And the same goes with the coaching. And Kyle's helped me get into some schools with that and go and do my Ember to Inferno program, which is, it's interesting because the Ember to Inferno program, and you'll hear me talk about this all the time, it's about helping coaches build a mental toughness fire in their athletes. And that's very important. And they need to know how to deal with the athletes to do that. But it's also about them addressing some of their own fears and limitations mentally to make them better coaches. And that's probably more important because I don't know how well you can lead somebody as a coach if you're not in the right headspace and with that positive mindset, which is so important. I just don't know how. I don't think you can lead the way you want to or lead the way that you should if you're not in that same headspace. And I know a lot of coaches who struggle with that. And that's one of my favorite parts about going in and doing that Ember to Inferno program is helping the coaches out so that they can then help out their athletes. And I love doing that. So I guess what I would say here is hope you enjoyed the interview. And if you have any questions about anything that I do, whatever group you have, if you're in charge of a group in an office, in a school, and you're interested in some group coaching, I love doing it. It's so much fun. I see so much connection in the groups. I've done it with different districts, with their administrators, with coaches. And I just love doing it because it allows a space for them to be vulnerable, to grow, and to help them grow connections and understand each other better, which makes for such a better working environment. And if you can have a better working environment, then you have a better product. And if you're in a school, then that product is your kids. So if you want to help your kids, help yourself and help your office and help your staff and do these things, because you're going to change the culture. And when you change that culture, you change those kids. And so it's really important to start with yourself and with your staff and working with them, because I think it's, it's just, it's fundamental for you to be able to do that. So if you have any questions about that, I'm always here, always taking calls, always answering emails about that. And it's that time of year, right? And it's in the spring here, and I'm scheduling a lot of stuff for next year. And again, everybody that's helped me do that, Kyle and anybody else that's allowed me to do that, thank you so much. A lot of gratitude for that. Been at this now, started this business. It'll be 5 years in October. So, 4.5 years, and it has grown every year. And, I love what I'm doing, and I have a lot of you to thank for that. And so thank you. But yeah, so great episode. Really enjoy it. And I'll be back next week. For now, this has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman. Always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.